What's up, A to Z Sports Live on a Thursday. Going to have a big show because big news in the NFL happened yesterday with the trading of Stephon Diggs from the Buffalo Bills in the AFC South with the Houston Texans. So we'll discuss quite a bit about the Houston Texans bolstering their roster, and maybe we'll revisit a conversation that Zach and I had earlier in the week about who's had a more impactful offseason between the Titans and the Texans. Earlier in the week, I said the Titans and Zach said the Texans, but maybe it is the Houston Texans. I have new information as they trade a future pick for Stephon Diggs, a guy who has not been under 1,000 yards in a season since 2017. This is the second time he's been traded, and now he's going to join CJ Stroud's offense that has a lot of young talent around it. But what does this mean for the Tennessee Titans in the NFL draft? Because this could open the door for the Titans to have a blockbuster draft move of their own. We will dive into that. We'll also go back and see if my draft dream from a couple nights ago was a foreshadowing moment to something that happened yesterday. So, Jack, welcome in. You're on the show today, getting to catch up with my draft dream. I've also remembered to bring the magic bucket out of the closet. So the magic bucket will wrap up this Thursday show. But Jack, welcome in. Hope you've had a good week. Let's get this thing rolling.
Yeah, absolutely. Good morning to everyone in the chat. Let's go ahead and get this homework done and out of the way. Like the show if you're filing in right now. We've got 150 people in here, just 11 likes right now. Let's boost those numbers up. Let's get to 25, so I'll shut up about it for the rest of the show, at least to start. And then if you're watching on Facebook, let's share the show. Share it to your Titans Facebook groups. There's a big trade that happened yesterday. Everyone's talking about it. The Titans could be impacted by this through the ripple effect. So we want to hear from you guys in the chat throughout the day. In order to do that, we need to bring everybody we can in here. So share the show in your Titans Facebook groups. It helps us grow the show. It helps with content. It helps everything. You guys are a big part of the show. Y'all know that. Let's bring in all of your friends to talk a little Titans. Next, if you're watching on YouTube, tap that bell icon at the top of your screen and turn your notifications on. You do not want to miss an update. The draft is getting closer and closer. News breaks at any moment this month. Don't miss out on it. Turn your notifications on YouTube. Finally, if you're watching on Twitch, text that Twitch link around to your Titans text groups. Let's bring in all of your Titans friends. Again, we're going to grow the show. We need a Twitch audience to do that. So like the show, share the show, grow the show, be active in the chat. Austin, let's get the show on the road.
Yep. For the record, I was the 26th like on Facebook this morning personally. So, hey, we're building early. That. There we go. All right, let's get it going officially. Welcome into A to Z Sports, powered as always by the BetMGM app. I'm Austin Stanley. He is Jack Gentry of the Tighten Up Podcast, and we are Nashville's on-demand sports talk network, going live weekday mornings at 8 Central Time on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Links to the show segment by segment on our Twitter X timeline. That's at A to Z Sports. Also hit us up on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads for more great Titans content. We got to thank our sponsors because they make it happen for us and they help out all of you, like Wilson County Hyundai, wilsoncountyhyundai.com to go to make them a part of your new car buying process. The Bone and Joint Institute, boneandjointtn.org, the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedic and sports medicine care. Farm Bureau Health Plans, get better with Farm Bureau Health Plans at fbhp.com/ATOZ. And Krebs Kubota, an elite Kubota dealer with 3 great locations across the mid-state in Columbia, Franklin, and Murfreesboro. They are online at KrebsKubota.com. So, busy week here in the NFL. Usually this is a little bit of a slower time in the NFL's calendar because free agency, the big wave, and maybe the wave that follows the big wave, mostly done. We are, hey, guess what? 3 weeks from today away from the NFL draft. So we are closing in on the actual NFL draft. And so usually it's a little bit of a calm before the storm in the NFL. But big news happens yesterday morning after the show where a blockbuster trade in the NFL, Stephon Diggs traded from the Buffalo Bills to the Houston Texans in this AFC South division. And what I think it's pretty interesting. So Stephon Diggs goes to Houston. The Bills also send 2 picks, a 6th rounder this year and a 5th rounder next year. and the Buffalo Bills give up Diggs and 2 picks for a 2025 second-round pick, which was actually via the Minnesota Vikings because the Texans just traded with the Vikings in the draft for this year. And so now they're sending not even their own second-round pick to the Bills, but the Vikings second-round pick to the Bills, which is probably going to be higher than the Texans second-round pick. So, Jack, when you saw this news happen yesterday, what was the first thought that went through your mind?
The Texans are going to be hard to stop on offense. I mean, how could it not be, right? You've got Nico Collins, Tank Dell, who I'm really high on, and now Stephon Diggs. And it's a move that really kind of surprised the rest of the league, I think, because CJ Stroud, yeah, sure, he had a good rookie year, but, going out and getting Stephon Diggs really sends a message throughout the league that, hey, the Texans are trying to win a Super Bowl here in the next 2 years before CJ Stroud gets his bag. And, a lot of people, I think it's interesting too, because if the Titans had made this trade, I'm sure the national media would have dragged the Titans. Oh, you're putting a 30-year-old wide receiver who turns 31 in November around Will Levis. Stephon Diggs last year showed clear regression, and an 1,100-yard season in Josh Allen's offense. The conversion rate to just about any other quarterback, those yards typically go down. Now, CJ Stroud might be an exemption there, or an exception, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's an all-in move for a team that came from nothing just a year and a half ago. I mean, think about it. Like a year and a half ago, no Texans fans was showing up at Energy Stadium. Okay.
Yeah.
And they were the laughing stock of the NFL. They had the team chaplain running the show in the GM seat. It was
That's
a
right.
disaster. It was an embarrassment.
Yeah.
And for them to have come this far already is impressive, but it also should give hope to teams like the Titans, who are coming off a 6-win season, who are projected 5.5 wins, according to most sports books, which is the same number the Texans were projected at this time last year. So there's some hope there, but also, I mean, you have to tip your cap to the Texans. They've went out and added a ton of pieces. DeMeco Ryan seems like a coach that, players are excited to play for. Danico Autry, Azeez Al-Shaair, just to name a few, showing up down there in some of the free agent moves. Now you go get Stephon Diggs. CJ Stroud's got to be the happiest man on the planet.
Yeah, CJ Stroud in his rookie year threw for 4,100 yards in 15 games. The Tennessee Titans have never had a quarterback throw for 4,000 yards in a season. Stroud did it along with 23 touchdowns and 5 picks in his rookie season. And they've already got the young talent, like you said, Nico Collins, just under 1,300 yards and 8 touchdowns last season. Tank Dell in 11 games caught 7 touchdowns and was over 700 yards as a rookie. Dalton Schultz is back after the 1-year contract where he scores 5 touchdowns and over 630 yards too. And then you add in Stephon Diggs, who had 1,100 yards and 8 touchdowns and 107 catches from Josh Allen in the Buffalo Bills offense last year. So look, here's the interesting thing about this too, because the Texans, this whole rumor about Stephon Diggs wanting out, and shout out to A to Z Sports Jarrett Bailey, who goes viral in his own right yesterday by quote tweeting his tweet that Stephon Diggs will not be traded. Why do we do this every year? Because this has been a thing every year of Stephon Diggs wanting out of Buffalo, yet he hadn't been traded. Jarrett tweets that in March, and then all of a sudden Stephon Diggs gets traded. And so Jarrett quote tweets that and says, Sydney Sweeney will not DM me. Why do we do this every year? Hoping something else can come true that he tweets. But shout out to Jarrett on that for winning the internet yesterday. But Stephon Diggs' contract is so team friendly because he's got an $18.5 million base salary this year with 0 signing bonus attached to it. It's all salary based. His cap hit's just over $19 million. If it doesn't work out with the Texans, they can cut him with 0 dead cap after the season. 0 dead cap after the season. And then he's just got base salary. It's for 18, 19, and $15 million over the next 3 years. So it is pretty wild that they can completely get out of Stephon Diggs after 1 year for $0. That is, which is interesting. And, all the Texans had to do was give up a future second-round pick that wasn't even their own. So shout out to the Texans for winning this overall in this trade.
Yeah, and I want to say one more thing. I mentioned the 1,100-yard season that Diggs had in Buffalo last year with Josh Allen, but think of who he was competing with for targets, like Gabe Davis and Khalil Shakir. Now he's going to a Texans offense where Nico Collins is going to want the ball. I mean, this is a big year for Collins. He's got a big shot to get paid big time next season if he is a productive year this year. And then you got Tank Dell, Dalton Schultz. I'm not so sure that Diggs is a guaranteed 1,000-yard guy this season. I know he's got the pedigree, and I know it's crazy to say after this run of 1,000-yard seasons that he's had, but after the clear regression we saw last year in an offense where it's very competitive for the football, I wonder if that makes things a little harder on Diggs, and we start to see, Diggs really hit the decline in terms of production. He's going to be tough to cover unless you're L'Jarius Sneed. L'Jarius Sneed, by the way, has locked Diggs up in the last 5 times they've seen each other. Yeah. Diggs has 3 catches in 5 games against L'Jarius Sneed. So, I mean, I know the Titans secondary shouldn't be worried, but it's a lot to prepare for defenses who do not have the type of cornerbacks that the Titans now have. So while it's a big problem for a lot of teams, I think the Titans shouldn't be as afraid as they might have been last year if they didn't make any moves in the cornerback room.
Yeah, without a doubt. All right, so once again, the trade Diggs from the Bills to the Texans and a couple other picks going to the Texans and a 2025 second-round pick from the Vikings is now going through the Texans to the Buffalo Bills. So how does this impact the Titans in the draft? We're going to revisit my Titans draft dream from yesterday. It's just less than 24 hours ago that I told you guys about my Titans draft dream, and we'll get to that. But hey, we are going into the final weekend of the NCAA tournament, and our bracket challenge has been presented by Prince's Hot Chicken and their location at Tanger Outlets in Nashville. So it's the last weekend, the last few days of your opportunity to get the great deal at Prince's Hot Chicken at the Tanger Outlets, which is 10 winglets, your choice of heat, fries, and a fountain drink for just $17.50. It's a great deal. So if you're watching college basketball, whether it's this weekend or in the future, go out and check out Prince's Hot Chicken at the Tanger Outlets Nashville. Tanger Outlets, it's pretty sick. It's got 70% off of your favorite brands, and they have up to 100 stores out there at the Tanger Outlets Nashville as Nashville's newest shopping destination right off of Cane Ridge. So shout out to Tanger Outlets Nashville and Prince's Hot Chicken, the original hot chicken in Nashville, $17.50 for 10 winglets, your choice of heat, and a side of fries right there all tournament long. So take advantage of that over the weekend, and we'll see who can win a gift card from both Tanger and Prince's Hot Chicken if you're the local winner of our bracket challenge. Now, Jack, the Titans have an opportunity, right, to trade back maybe. I will present to you guys my Titans draft dream that I explained yesterday morning on the show with Sam. Last year, my Titans draft dream, the weekend before the draft week, was that the Titans took Will Levis at 11. They didn't take Will Levis at 11. They took him at 33, but it happened, right? This year, my Titans draft dream, at least last night's dream, I woke up and I was like, well, here's a show point, and I didn't tell you in our pre-show meeting. The Titans traded back from 7, but they traded back into the 20s. And I don't know what that means. That was the extent of my dream. They traded back into the 20s.
They had a lot to go back to the 20s.
Yes. And so I know they've got multiple picks this year in that. But my thought is they traded back into the 20s to get that second crop wide receiver. That wasn't what I dreamed. That wasn't the trade result. I woke up before the Titans were on the clock again in the 20s. But they traded back into the early to mid 20s. And I was thinking, what is this? And it was not Minnesota 11 and 23. It was not that. It was a team that, it was like when you dream things and you talk to a human being.
It's an AI team. It's an AI team. You're exactly. You see the branding and you're like, oh, that's a team, but it's not a distinct.
But it's not a real team. It was. So that's exactly what it was. Not Minnesota, but it was around the mid 20s. And I woke up and I was like, damn, the 20s? And I'm thinking that's like A.D. Mitchell, Xavier Worthy, one of those type of guys. And so, again, I don't know what it means, but that was my first Titans draft dream of the season. Oh, and just 2 hours after I shared that, the Titans maybe have their trade partner because the Buffalo Bills send Stephon Diggs to the Texans. I don't know what that means, but I don't know if I was dreaming 24 hours ahead or not. But 28 is where it is. Now, why would the Buffalo Bills want to trade up from 28 to 7? I think this is really, really interesting. And Orlando, I do not have the Powerball numbers. I have no idea. But the Buffalo Bills, Jack, had 5 wide receivers catch a pass last season. 5.
Mm-hmm.
One of those 5 wide receivers is still on the roster. Can you name them?
Trent Sherfield, go Doors. You've got
No,
Khalil
not there.
No?
Trent Sherfield is no longer on the Buffalo Bills, but he.
I was rattling off the 5 players that caught the ball.
Okay. So you're
going
going to start with. So there were 5 Bills wide receivers who caught a pass last year. Only 1 remains. 4 or elsewhere.
The 5 were Isaiah McKenzie, Trent Sherfield, Gabe Davis, Stephon Diggs, and Khalil Shakir. I believe Khalil Shakir is the only one still there.
You're correct with Khalil Shakir. Isaiah McKenzie was not on the Buffalo Bills.
He wasn't
last year. Okay. No, he did not. He's not on the Bills. Deontay Hardy was the 5th wide receiver.
Wouldn't have gotten that.
Isaiah McKenzie, Deontay Hardy, same guy, right? Whatever.
It's the same role. Yeah,
they
plug and play that same guy every year.
Yes. So Shakir is the only wide receiver from last year's team that has caught a pass that is on the team again, and he had just 39 catches on 45 targets. Gabe Davis, 81 targets, gone. Diggs, 160 targets, gone. Those 2 guys nearly had 2,000 yards and 15 touchdowns combined last season for Josh Allen. Josh Allen is still in a Super Bowl window. The Buffalo Bills want to go for it. Gabe Davis is in Jacksonville. Stephon Diggs is now in the AFC South 2 in Houston. So what are the Buffalo Bills going to do? They need a stud. They need a wide receiver who can come in and play immediately. Jack, we've been talking all draft season long that Rome Odunze very likely to be on the board when the Titans are there at 7, right? Because you've got quarterbacks to go 1, 2, 3 with Caleb Williams, Drake May, Jaden Daniels in whatever order. You've got Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to be off the board in the first 6 picks. The Vikings, I think, are going to trade up with the Chargers to get J.J. McCarthy. So now there's 4 quarterbacks and Marvin Harrison Jr. Then you've got Malik Neighbors or Rome Odunze to go to the Giants, which leaves the other wide receiver and Joe Alt on the board at 7 overall. So that's Rome Odunze or Neighbors, which I think it's more likely to be Odunze, is a guy that Josh Allen can throw the ball deep to in year 1, and they can still try to go win the AFC East to keep this Super Bowl window open. A talented guy. So that's where the Buffalo Bills might be desperate enough to move up from 28 to 7. It's a big jump, 21 spots for the Bills and a big drop for the Titans. Now, Jack, you wrote yesterday at A2ZSports.com of what that trade could look like, and I'll let you kind of take it through this, but the Titans would be getting an absolute haul if they moved back from 7 to 28.
Yeah, that's right. So in this particular instance, and you can go find my story online at A2ZSports.com, went up at 6 a.m. this morning, and I listed a few different trade examples that have happened in recent years that kind of have similar leaps, like from the 28 to 7, that's 21 spots. So these examples that I have are massive leaps from the back end of the draft up towards the top 10. And in this particular instance, a trade with the Bills would probably have to cough up a couple first-round picks this year's and next year's, along with that second-round pick at number 60, which is a late second. And because these picks are so late this season, I wonder if that's not enough.
Yeah,
right?
I think it's a starting point, right?
You could probably you could probably find a way to grab a 4th in there as well. So that's probably what it would cost the Bills to jump all the way up from 28 to 7. And look, the Titans are in a spot where the Bills aren't going to be the only one interested in jumping up. Like the Raiders have already reached out to the Titans. I know the Saints need a guy. The Bears at number 9 could jump a couple spots to get a guy to make sure he's not off the board before they're up. So there's a handful of teams that should be interested here. And the Bills just happen to be the deepest in the first round. And when you're that far away, the price goes up and up and up and up. So if the Titans do trade back with the Bills, they'd be in position to receive, like you said, a major haul.
Yeah, and so that would be a major, major haul. So I want to get the chat more involved this morning here on the show. So I have a feeling I know how this is going to go. Would the Titans trading back 21 spots with the Bills for a haul truly be worth it? Would the Titans, it's a yes or no. So it's pretty simple. I'll put up a poll too on the YouTube chat as soon as you guys, after you guys throw in your answers. Would the Titans trading back 21 spots with the Buffalo Bills truly be worth it? But you're going to get a haul, multiple first-round picks, a second-round pick this year, and potentially more, maybe an early day 3 pick from the Buffalo Bills with this. So we're just going through the starting points of what this draft trade could be like. So would the Titans trading back 21 spots with the Bills for a haul truly be worth it? We'll get to all of your comments, but first I want to tell everybody about Farm Bureau Health Plans. They can help you out when it comes to your health coverage, getting in a better situation for you. If you're out there fighting life on your own or your family, maybe you have a growing family, you need to make sure that your kids, your spouse, everybody is set up to have the right and the best health coverage for your situation. Farm Bureau Health Plans can absolutely do that, a la carte or the whole thing, because they've been doing it for Tennesseans for over 75 years, and so much has changed across the state with 75 years. But Farm Bureau Health Plans' commitment to its community and the state of Tennessee has just gotten stronger. They've got relationships with the Tennessee Titans, the Tennessee Volunteers, other universities and colleges, youth sports leagues and high schools across the entire state. You go to that youth baseball field this spring, you're probably going to see that logo on that outfield fence because they want to be involved in the community at the deepest level. So check them out and have them help you save money on your coverage and get better coverage at the same time. Zach Bingham saved 20% per month on his coverage, but actually got better coverage on top of it, not having to pay out of pocket for dental or his vision coverage as well. So check them out online and get a quote at our link, fbhp.com/ATOZ.
Check out BetMGM as well. Austin mentioned it's the final weekend of March Madness, and baseball's in full swing. Playoff hockey's on the horizon. Same with the NBA. You don't want to miss out. Now's the time to get in the game. And if you do get in the game, sign up on betmgm.com with our bonus code A to Z Sports, and you'll receive up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if your first bet misses. Get some skin in the game. Do it with BetMGM. Bonus code A to Z Sports. New users will receive up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if their first bet misses.
All right, so the question here is, would the Titans trading back 21 spots with the Buffalo Bills from 7 to 28 to get a haul of a draft trade? It's starting with the Bills' first-round pick this year at 28 overall, their second-round pick this year at 60 overall, and a 2025 first-round pick that we think is probably going to be in the 20s because the Bills are likely to be a playoff team, but you never know, especially in the AFC East when you've got Aaron Rodgers back. The Miami Dolphins are trying to make the playoffs again. You never truly know. And the Bills have lost a lot of firepower, but the Bills desperate to have a wide receiver for Josh Allen. All they have is Khalil Shakir, who caught 39 passes last year. All the other wide receivers from the roster last year are gone who have caught a pass. So desperate for the Bills to get a Rome Odunze, because at 28th overall, I don't know if they're going to have a day one playmaker, game changer, reliable there for them at 28th overall. So maybe going to get a stud like Rome Odunze out of Washington at 7 is an option. So would the Titans moving back 21 spots with the Bills for a haul be worth it? Jack, I'll send you the chat on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch.
Some strong answers from the chat. No surprise there. Andre Bunting's going to start us off on YouTube. He's saying all caps, no. Lou Man says no. Ashley, no. Ira Hoshi, F, no. Another no from Curtis. Linwood says no. Brian Spivey says yes. JR's laughing at it. I believe that's a hell no. Richie Guzman and Titans Kyle says no. Deshaun, Amar, Andres, King VC, Eric Castillo, Bennett, all on no. Daniel says yes. Nate's Burner says no. Get lost, Bills. Caleb Meadows says no. Ed Champ says hell no. Same with Jake Hughes. Nick says no. Matthew, no. No way, no how from Guy Man. Darren Lee says yes, but I'm not giving Allen a shiny new wide receiver without being paid handsomely. And you would be paid handsomely in terms of draft capital. But Darius,
let me add something else in this too, because I think this is good. And you put this in your article at A2ZSports.com. I'm going to go ahead and copy that link and throw that in there to the chat so you guys can check that out after the show. But
click that link. Click that link.
Click that link. Jack needs these clicks, baby. All right. So the Bills don't have a third round pick this year, which I think complicates things. But they do have 2 fourth rounders at 128 and 133. So, you'd have to sweeten the pot, I think, a little bit with the 28th pick, the 60th pick, and then that 128, I think, too, on top of next year's first. And that's a lot. A lot of teams, you can squeeze every bit of juice out of a team that's desperate for a quarterback in the draft, like what the Vikings are probably going to get done to them for J.J. McCarthy, if that's the case. But this isn't for a quarterback. This is for a wide receiver for their quarterback. So there's a little bit of nuance to that as well.
And 128, if my math checks out, that would be the first pick in the 4th round, wouldn't it?
No, that's
I guess comp picks start factoring in.
Yeah. I don't know how many picks there are, and usually it's like the 4th round begins at like 109 or 112 or something like that. So I think it's like middle to late 4th round.
Back to the chat. No from Darius, Lucas, Willie. Hell yes from John. Low key yes from Rashid. We got no. It's more no's than yeses. We've got a no. Jacob Lindsay says yes. Rooney says yes. Sports fan says yes. So a little bit of a comeback from the yeses, but mostly no's in the chat. Austin, I think that this is a great question. However, I think the answer is fairly simple for me, at least. Okay. If the Titans trade back, they should go no further than 13. That's a position where you can find maybe the second best offensive tackle in this draft and really start to build up front. Like, you need Will Levis to be protected up front. You haven't made a move at right tackle. Going to get a left tackle in the first round should be priority number 1. You can do that at 13 overall while also recouping, a few more draft picks in the process if you make a move with the Raiders. Now, if you move all the way back from 7 to 28 with the Bills, that is risky. And Titans fans know better than anybody else that picking in the 20s, there's no such thing as a sure thing. And the last 6 times the Titans picked in the 20s, they drafted Caleb Farley, Isaiah Wilson, Rashaan Evans, Kendall Wright, and Kenny Britt. The last time they picked 28th overall, Andre Wolfolk in 2006. So that is a troubling.
What was Chris Johnson? He was 24.
He was 24. Okay. But those 5 players, Farley, Wilson, Evans, Wright, and Britt, none of those dudes made a second contract here. So
now, the Titans have had draft picks late, and look, we're going all. When you're including Andre Wolfolk and you're going back and all that,
like a couple hits were Chris Johnson and Keith Bullock at 30 overall.
And I think Michael Griffin was I believe
19th.
He was 19th. Okay. I was curious about that because I knew that he was a little bit later. But yeah, it's tougher for sure. And Isaiah Wilson is a massive, massive PTSD moment for Titans fans because he was the 29th overall pick. And the Titans need an offensive lineman at that point. And a lot of the reasons why you don't have a tackle or you have offensive lineman problems right now is because Isaiah Wilson was the biggest bust in NFL history when it comes to a draft. And then you follow that up with Caleb Farley, which is why do you have massive offensive line needs? And why did you have to go pay 2 cornerbacks to have 2 guys that are paid top 14 in the league because you had Isaiah Wilson and Caleb Farley in back-to-back first rounds? Right?
Exactly.
That's the consequences.
So this deal only works out if the Titans hit at 28 and find a Pro Bowl talent at 28, which is much easier said than done. I mean, you're talking about drafting the 6th or 7th offensive tackle there, possibly the 6th wide receiver at that spot. And you know, that it's just a little bit more of not a little bit. It's a much bigger risk than drafting at 7, where you can get a blue chip player like Joe Alt or possibly Roma Dunze, depending on, you know, what Callahan and Carthon decide on. But either of those guys, I think Titans fans would feel confident about making a game-changing impact in year one. It's hard to find game-changing players at 28th overall. And the Titans particularly have had an incredibly difficult job in finding a player that works out in the 20s in general, historically. Yeah. So for me, this is a hell no. If I'm trading back, I'm not going further than the teens.
All right, fair enough. So I'm looking through. Field Yates from ESPN.com had a new mock that came out either yesterday or Tuesday, I believe. And he had the Bills at 28th overall well, I guess he updated it. He updated this post Stephon Diggs trade because it just said 28 Buffalo Bills, Xavier Worthy, wide receiver, Texas. Glaring weakness at wide receiver became even bigger when Buffalo traded Stephon Diggs to Houston on Wednesday. So props to Field Yates for updating that work. But on the board still, that came off the board pretty quickly on the offensive line after the 28th pick, with the Ravens taking BYU offensive tackle Kingsley. I don't know how to say his last name, but I know Sam was very impressed with him at the Senior Bowl and is a very big physical freak that could, you know, develop into a really good player under Bill Callahan. The Cowboys at 31 took Jordan Morgan, offensive tackle out of Arizona. Then you go through and look at some other offensive linemen. Jackson Powers Johnson, who's a center/guard. Zach Frazier from West Virginia, center/guard. So you start to get into interior offensive lineman territory. Patrick Paul, now you're getting in the middle of the second round. But then you start to get to the 60th overall pick. If the Titans were to make this hypothetical trade and go there, now you're talking about, hey, local kid, linebacker Junior Colson from Ravenwood High School out of Michigan to play inside linebacker. Mason Smith is a freak D tackle from LSU. Jalen Polk, wide receiver out of Washington. There's a Penn State edge player, Theo Johnson, Penn State tight end there too. Troy Franklin, wide receiver, Oregon. Those are kind of your late second round options there. And so it would be a risk. So I think to answer the question, yeah, I'm also a no. And I know I dreamt that the Titans were going to move back and trade back to the mid to late 20s. And I played that edit earlier. And, you know, that would be really weird if that happened 2 years in a row where I had a Titans draft dream and it came to fruition with them picking Will Levis last year and them trading back into the first round and into the 20s or something this year. But I just think the Titans are not desperate for that many picks. And I don't think the Bills are the right trade partner, mainly because they're also missing a third round pick this year. So that's kind of how I feel about it overall.
Yeah, I mean, was it a dream or was it a nightmare? Maybe we get Meek Mill on the phone, although he's probably particularly hard to contact at this point.
And I always say this because, you know, your Uncle Jim Wyatt of the Tennessee Titans, and yes, that is Jack's actual uncle, which I find hilarious. And I listened to the Titan Up podcast yesterday, and I know you guys had Easter together on Sunday over the weekend, and
we did.
You're getting to talk in the gym about the different vibes in the building and all that. So you can go check out the Titan Up pod on that one. But I do think it's interesting that I texted Jim. He always texts us like, "Hey, who's your official prediction?" And I said I had a dream that Will Levis was the pick by the Titans, and Jim said some would call that a nightmare. I don't think it turned out to be a nightmare because you know, Will Levis showed a lot of really good things in 9 games for the Titans, and so yeah, look, this is I think this draft is so interesting because the Titans don't have a third round pick. If they made this trade, they would have 4 picks in the top 60, right? 28, 38, 60.
And 60, yeah.
So just 3 picks in the top 60, and you're getting a future first round pick too. With the Bills from next year. So but I do think it's too late.
And I just don't think that a trade back that far really matches the philosophy that Rand Carthon's had this entire offseason, which has been aggressively getting this Titans roster back in shape to compete for a division title. I mean, moves like Awuzie, Pollard, Cushenberry, Snead, and Ridley, all of those moves indicate that Rand Carthon wants to move fast. He doesn't want to build picks and build it out over, the next however long, like the Bears have kind of done and delayed the process so that Ryan Poles can, sit in that GM chair for as long as possible. Like, you got to make a decision at some point. And you just suffered through a 6-11 season. Like, picking 7th overall, that's your big payoff. That's the game-changing part of this thing. Because, finishing 6-11, that's a terrible, terrible season. And if they finish 6-11 next year, then injuries had to have played a part in that.
Sure.
And I don't think that they'll ever have an opportunity like this in the next couple of years with Will Levis on his rookie deal to pick this high in the draft. So the Titans aren't picking in the top 10 often. Now you've got a chance to find to find a foundational piece of your franchise. You do it. You do not wait until 28 and gamble on the 6th or 7th best player at his position. You go and get the best guy at his spot in Joe Alt or whichever left tackle the Titans prefer.
Yeah, look, I think, do you remember the last time the Titans earned a top 10 draft pick the last year? Because they picked in 2017,
Mariota?
Corey Davis with a 5th overall pick.
Yeah.
But that was the Rams draft pick. So I'm kind of giving you a clue. There was the Rams pick that the Titans used with Corey Davis. Do you remember the last time the Titans earned a top 10 draft pick?
I want to say it was the Mariota deal.
It was technically in 2016 when they had the 1st overall pick after Mariota's rookie year. And they traded it to the Rams to go back to 15, but then traded back up to 8 to get Jack Conklin. But that was the last time they had earned a top 10 pick with their win-loss record. And they did it in back-to-back years because Mariota was the 2nd overall pick the year before. Lawan, who people are bringing up, and Chance Warmack. Warmack was 10th overall. I want to say that was like 2013's draft. 2014 draft was Lawan. He was the 12th overall pick. And 2015's draft was Mariota at 2nd overall. And then Jack Conklin, Titans had the 1st pick, moved back to 15 with the Rams, then back up to 8 to get Jack Conklin. So that, it's been a while, right? Because, you pick 18th with Adoree Jackson, you pick 19th with Jeffrey Simmons, you go 25th up to 22 for Rashaan Evans. Then you get, the 29 at Isaiah Wilson, followed by 22 for Caleb Farley. And then you go from 26 up to 18 for Treylon Burks. And then last year with Peter Skoronski right outside it at 11th overall. So this doesn't happen.
Curious how the hit rate increases the higher you pick in the draft.
Yeah. Well, you bring up you don't want the 6th best player at the position in the first round. Treylon Burks was the 6th wide receiver drafted in the first round in 2022. And he was at 18th overall because of the A.J. Brown trade. So that's desperation in its finest form, right? Or in its most obvious form of the Treylon Burks pick. I don't think the Titans are desperate. Are the Bills desperate, and how much are they willing to give up? That's going to be something that's truly fascinating. I want to get to something, Jack, and we got some super chats on this too. I want to get to something that we played yesterday on the show, a certain video that I think will make everybody smile. But it kind of goes into the fact of the Titans trading back and why they might be more willing to do that with this coaching staff and where Rand Carthon might become more comfortable. But first, the Bone and Joint Institute is where you need to turn for all of your injury needs. I've done this. I've been somewhat frequent visitor to the Bone and Joint Institute. When I had a shoulder bone spur a few years ago, I went and got that taken care of. Had a plantar fasciitis flare up a couple summers ago and haven't had it since because my guy, Dr. Jeff Watson, taught me how to do that at home and take care of it. And you can do the same thing with the Bone and Joint Institute. I had knee surgery about 15 years ago from our guy, Dr. Scott Arthur, there at the Bone and Joint Institute. And they can take care of you. And it's a relationship that you build with their experts that you can truly learn from and have that home care. So you get to stay out of the clinic as much as possible. So whenever an injury pops up in life, go get it checked out. Hopefully it's fine. Hopefully you go in there. They give you a little bit of idea, a little bit of some advice on how to do it at home and take care of it, and it goes away. but you got to learn that from going to see the Bone and Joint Institute. So don't let that injury linger. They also specialize in all types of sports injuries as well. So whether it's you playing, being an intramural hero out there on the turf, or maybe your son or daughter, hopefully not, but they get hurt playing youth sports, the Bone and Joint Institute can take care of them. State-of-the-art facility, including the rehab, surgery center, clinics, testing, imaging, everything under one roof in Franklin, Tennessee, and online at boneandjointtn.org.
Is there a Final Four bet that you're salivating over, or maybe a draft prop that you really have a hunch about? Download BetMGM, get some skin in the game, put some money on it. Download it, use our bonus code A to Z Sports, and you'll receive up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if your first bet misses. Maybe it turns out to be a bad beat. Don't worry about it. BetMGM's got your back. Download BetMGM, new users, sign up with our code A to Z Sports, and you'll receive up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if your first bet misses.
BetMGM and GameSense remind you to play responsibly. Visit BetMGM.com for terms and conditions. 21 to older. Tennessee only new customer offer. All promotions, subject to qualifications, and eligible requirements. First online real money wager. Only rewards and eligible bonus bets. Bonus bets expire 7 days. And for public games, sport call Tennessee Redline 800-889-9789. All right, a couple super chats to get to before I go back to a video we played yesterday too. King VC just says, like the show. That is all. Yes, please. Thank you, King VC, for hitting us in the middle of the show. Need to like the show way more. We got a huge audience in here wanting to talk Titans after the Stephon Diggs trade. We'll still discuss how this impacts the AFC South coming up here in a few minutes, but hit that like button. We've got so many people watching that have not hit the like button. So shout out to King VC and shout out to our guy Noah. He goes, I agree, King. Everyone like the show. So those super chats, knock them out. But here we go for Ryan Fields as the likes start to grow. Ryan says Texans get Diggs, who is toxic, and his team had to eat $31 million in dead money, but the Titans add Ridley and media lists it as risky. Make it make sense. I think here's how it makes sense in two ways. One, the Houston Texans won the division last year with a rookie quarterback who at times during the season was a legitimate MVP candidate. That's the first reason of how it makes sense. Two, Stefon Diggs has a better reputation as an all-pro level wide receiver than Calvin Ridley. Calvin Ridley's reputation is he's a dumb guy who bet on his team and had got suspended for a year, and he's really athletic, and he had a good year with the Jags, but he still got suspended for sports betting, right? That is the reputations of the two players and with the teams and where they're at. The Titans were 6-11. The Texans won the division and won a playoff game. That's why you saw the reaction that you did. I agree with you, Ryan. I think it was dumb for media, national media, hating the Titans because, Jack, I can't remember if it was you and Sam, me and Sam, or you and I that did this, that if we took the salary cap when A.J. Brown got his contract from the Eagles and we put that percentage on today's salary cap, then A.J. Brown's deal would be like $32 million. And Calvin Ridley got 23 on average. So not the same deal. So overall, I agree with Ryan, but that's why it makes sense. I'm sure you're kind of on the same side.
Yeah, I am. And, a fascinating part of this comparison between Ridley and Diggs is that Ridley's just about a year and a little under a half younger than Diggs, but he's got just 5 seasons of NFL experience. A lot of tread left on his tires. Diggs turns 31 in November. He's already played 9 years in the NFL. And, a receiver to produce at a high level after, going into his 10th season, you're starting to ask for a lot. And that's, the price makes a little sense there, especially when you consider that Nico Collins might come off the books next year. If somebody else pays him big money, then it does make sense from a production standpoint. But the comment is addressing how toxic Diggs has been in his tenure in Buffalo. And I get it. Buffalo's a hard place to play for a wide receiver. It's windy. It's cold. Josh Allen, there's games where he takes off and uses his legs more than he likes.
He also throws the ball so hard. And when your hands are frozen and that football's frozen and Allen rips it in there, then that's not very fun either.
But when you have a receiver in such a talented room like that, who is going to come in and immediately become the alpha male, and a quarterback entering his second season as a full-time starter, then that kind of makes things interesting. Like if Diggs doesn't just kind of fit the mold from what Bobby Sloak wants the offense to look like and how receivers should act in that, around a quarterback as young as him. And let's face it, these other receivers that Diggs is going to be working with are very impressionable as well as they're early on in their careers. So if Diggs has blow-ups like he did in Buffalo, that could certainly throw a wrench in things and make this deal look a little ugly. However, I don't think that you should factor that in immediately. I think that, a change in scenery is probably going to make Diggs a little bit happier. Stroud's going to look at him more, and, they'll game plan ways for him to get open. And, Stroud's decision-making probably a little bit better than Allen's, despite how much younger he is. So there's some things to like about Diggs being in Houston, but there is that toxic side of his personality that we've seen blow up on the sidelines that could always crop up and come back to bite Houston.
Whenever I hear people talk about Stephon Diggs and toxic, and like this is the second time he's been traded, right? He traded from the Vikings to the Bills several years ago. And once guys start to get traded multiple times, and it's natural to have that connotation of like, okay, it must not be smooth. I just had the name fall out of my brain of another guy who continuously gets traded, Brandon Cooks. Brandon Cooks has been traded like 8 times, like from the Rams to the I don't know. It's been Texans, way too many teams. Texans Saints. To the Saints, back to the Texans, to the Cowboys. He's been traded so many times. Like there's got to be something going on there because he's a good player, but he keeps getting moved. Yeah, and like it's wild. But like whenever I think of Stephon Diggs and people calling him toxic, I remember one video that the Vikings social media team put together years ago that was hilarious. But was it kind of telling about Stephon Diggs? The Vikings social media team went around the locker room. They did one of those goofy videos where it's like, who is one teammate that you absolutely do not want to date your sister or daughter? And every single answer from the Vikings player was out loud, oh my God, Diggs, no way in hell. Like it was just like, absolutely not. Easy answer, Diggs, no, keep him away. And like, that's funny. But now I feel like there's constantly stuff happening around Stephon Diggs, and he's catching 107 balls and he got 160 targets. What are you complaining about? It's a weird dynamic, but yeah. I always remember that video.
And a lot of people in the chat have this to say, D-Hop over Diggs. And I don't think it's necessarily strictly from a production standpoint, D-Hop over Diggs. But I think when you look at what type of leader each player is, that DeAndre Hopkins attitude and mindset and, willingness to go out and win a football game, to me, is the perfect personality to put around a young quarterback. Diggs' personality, a little bit more combustible, a little fiery, can get pouty on you if he's not seeing the football enough. That's a bit more of a risk. But at the same time, the Texans are in a spot to where they can take that risk because of how advanced they are in their offense now. When you bring in a guy like Dalton Schultz, Joe Mixon, you have Nico Collins, Tank Dell, all these guys, you can take a little bit of a risk because at the end of the day, who cares if there's fights on the sidelines if you end up bringing the Lombardi Trophy back to Houston? But it's still an issue that I'm sure Texans fans will keep their eye on throughout the season.
Yeah, for sure. Another super
I
chat.
just would prefer a personality like D-Hop. That's just me.
Andre says, y'all don't read expletives on air, but let's just say a trade back with the Bills is a strong no for me. Maybe if the Titans can get 3 first-round picks, 24, 25, and 26 in those years of draft.
That's the thing, too. The Bills, who says the Bills can't win 10 games next season, even with losing their wide receivers? Like if the Bills win 10 games next season, you're picking in the 20s again.
Here's the thing, though. The Bills have lost a lot. Like they were in salary cap ain't real. Salary cap's fake, people. Look at the Buffalo Bills, right? They are having to strip away their roster. They had to let both safeties walk, who are the best safety tandem in the league. They don't have any. Yeah. They got a lot of holes that they have to replace there. And they have Josh Allen, which is very important. They've got 2 really good tight ends. And I believe Mitch Morse, their center, is gone. He was a salary cap casualty as well. So the Bills have problems. So let's not just think the 2025 Bills first round pick is a guaranteed playoff slot. It's not, because there's turnover in this league. Zach mentioned it earlier. I believe there's 4 or 5 new playoff teams in the NFL each year. So 4 teams are going to not make it next year. And I think the Bills are an early candidate to be one of those teams to fall off that cliff. All right, Jack, I told everybody I was going to play a video from yesterday. We'll play it. And then we'll have a quick conversation about what this means and then what does the Stephon Diggs trade mean for the AFC South. But here is Mike Keith again on the impact of Bill Callahan and where the Titans might be willing to draft an offensive lineman because of what Bill Callahan is.
Every mock draft has the Titans taking an offensive lineman at number 7 on April 25th in the first round of the draft. And if I was doing a mock, I would probably put an offensive lineman there myself. But here's the wild card that I just keep thinking about, and that's Bill Callahan, the Titans offensive line coach who is just a guru. He knows exactly what he's going to need to run an offensive system that we haven't even seen yet. So who of these linemen fit in the draft what the Titans are going to run? And maybe the more important question, what does he think about the guys who are already under contract? I don't know. But I think when it comes to offensive linemen, the final say in the room is going to be Bill Callahan. And we've got to stop and think for just a second. We don't know what he thinks, and keep that in mind.
The great Vought did that on Twitter. And so, look, does Bill Callahan have to have a high-level talent in a top-tier offensive lineman for Brian Callahan's offense to be successful? I don't know. I mean,
probably not. I mean, when you have a coach like Bill Callahan, you don't need to go out and find superheroes up front. However, you do need to find at least one tackle that you can trust for the next 4 years. And, the deeper you fall in the draft, the riskier it gets. We've gone over that. We've had that conversation. By the way, I didn't know it was possible for Mike Keith's stock to keep rising, but somehow, some way, Mike Keith's stock continues to rise. If you haven't listened to the Tighten Up podcast with our interview with Mike Keith, go ahead and do that. It's still relevant to this day, and it's a really fun listen. So go listen to that if you haven't already. Kill some time at work today with some Mike Keith content. That's a shameless plug, Austin.
That's a big deal, right, Jack?
Say that one more time.
He's got the Power T logo on the decal on his truck window. Like that's a big pro in my box for Mike Keith. I don't know how you feel about that, Jack.
Yeah, I'm not as high on that as you are, but look, the Vought can do what the Vought wants. He's earned that.
Yeah. Real quick, Steve says, Austin, quit picking at that sore on your nose. It looks like it was healing yesterday. That's not a sore. That is a wound from me being the Easter Bunny at a kid's party over the weekend for some friends, because the Easter Bunny mask, is kind of dangerous on the inside. And the kids are getting older. This is the third year I've done this for our good friends. The kids they kicked my ass on Saturday. It was brutal. I mean, they were pulling my tail. They were throwing things at me, balls from the ball pit. And so that is a cut from the Easter Bunny mask, because the inside can get a little dangerous. And when the kids are now 6 and 7 years old, and they're different beasts at that point.
I think we need to see a picture of you in the Easter Bunny costume.
Oh, I've got some from the years. It's fun because you get.
Oh, this is a repeating thing. This is
I've done it for 3 years in a row.
Wow! Oh my god,
it's pretty fun.
Someone call it a dynasty.
I have fun time with it. Oh yeah, definitely. I've got pictures of it. I gotta find some somewhere. All right, so let's go ahead and get to this conversation. And I'm not picking at that wound. It's just it's on your nose. When you sleep and you turn over, maybe something happens. All right, so let's go ahead and get to this last question here. We'll go this fairly quickly. How much does the Stefon Diggs trade impact the Texans' chances to win the AFC South? A lot, a little, or none? How much does it affect or change the chances for the Texans to win the AFC South? A lot, a little, or none. But Krebs Kubota, they can help you out a lot when it comes to your equipment needs. KrebsKubota.com is where to go. Family owned and operated for over 18 years. They started in Columbia, and now they have 3 great locations across the mid-state to add to Columbia, in Franklin and Murfreesboro as well. Once again, KrebsKubota.com is their website. Check out all the inventory that they have. They have the great customer service because they're family owned and operated, and they are also an elite Kubota dealer, meaning they have the direct line to the Kubota national brand for the best equipment in the industry and the best warranties to go along with that equipment. So that outside project you got coming up this spring and this summer, whether at your home, your residence, or commercial property, Krebs Kubota can take care of you and help you get what you need, how to service it, how to manage it. If you need to rent it for the weekend or buy it for the long haul, they've got you covered right there as well. KrebsKubota.com.
If you're looking to change up your luck, or you're looking to get started in sports betting in general, do it with BetMGM. Sign up using our bonus code A to Z Sports, and you'll receive up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if your first bet misses. Tons of action going on right now. You guys know it. Y'all are big sports fans. Y'all know what's going on. Y'all know what's happening this weekend. Get in the game with BetMGM. Use our bonus code A to Z Sports and receive up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if your first bet misses.
All right, so how much does the Stephon Diggs trade impact or change the Texans' chances of winning the AFC South? A lot, a little, or none. Why none is on there is because the Texans were already the favorite for the AFC South championship. So how much does it affect their chances? A lot, a little, or none? Jack, I will send you to the chat on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. We're over 100 likes on both Facebook and on YouTube. That's great. But still a lot more people watching have not hit the like button yet. So go ahead and do that for us too. Jack, what's the chat saying?
Lou Man says none. Cameron says a lot. Orlando says a little. So 3 different answers right off the bat. Darren Lee, Andre, Jonathan, Chris, Steve, Eric, and Ken all say a little. Rooney says none. A little from Dylan, none from IR Hoshi, none from Jake. Also hashtag. We've got a little from Kenny, but none from Billy. A little from Matt and DeMarco and Steven, a little Sebastian, a little Parks and Rec reference there. We've got none from Jody and Patrick Bird, as well as Michael Snyder. Titans Kyle says it's a little. Jeff Rubel says it's a lot, because another weapon for Stroud is always dangerous. A little from Katie, Brad, Curtis, and Danny. None from Gene and Buy Stocks. A lot from JR. So we're seeing a lot of different answers here. But for the most part, a little. Let's see, a little from Eric. So a little from Malachi and Darius and Willie. So we're seeing mostly a little. And I'm going to go with this. I don't think it impacts it a lot. And I don't think it doesn't impact it at all. A player like Stephon Diggs is going to make an impact for the better on your football team. There's no doubt about it. And the reason why I say a little, it's because the Texans had a great passing offense last year. You know, they finished 7th in the NFL in passing yards per game at 245 yards. You know, the Dolphins were tops in the league at 265 yards. So even if the Texans had the best passing attack in the NFL, they would only improve by 20 yards per game. That is marginal. That is a tiny, tiny difference. And even if they do lead the NFL in passing yards per game, I don't think that that's a massive jump from last season's work. So I just don't think that you've already got such a talented group of pass catchers. Adding another one is great, and it makes it much harder for secondaries. But I just don't know how much higher the Texans offense can fly. So for that reason, I'm at a little.
Yeah, I know technically it changed their odds slightly. They're at plus 115 now. They were like plus 150 or so. I think that is more of a Vegas reacting to the news and to making, people either not bet or bet that number. I think I went through it earlier in the week that the last 2 years, the team that was expected to win the AFC South started out hot and crashed. The Titans 2 years ago and the Jags this past year, and both missed the playoffs. And then a team with a young quarterback and a new head coach came out of nowhere and stole the division, right? The Jags with Doug Peterson's first year came up and stole it from the Titans at the end. And then you had CJ Stroud with DeMeco Ryans in his first year steal it from the Jags last year. So there's Brian Callahan and Will Levis in that slot right now. Can they steal it? They're last place odds to win the division, but they're not like super long. They're actually the shortest last place odds of any division, last place predicted finisher. And if that makes sense. And so the Titans, I think, have a play here. I think the right answer to the question is a little, because it's not a lot. Like you said, like it's not going to be a massive difference maker because Nico Collins, Tank Dell, Dalton Schultz already have that chemistry with CJ Stroud. The offensive line is solid. They kept Bobby Slowick and they're building on top of that. So I think that's where it's a little boost, but I don't necessarily think it's a big boost. But then there's the caveat of like what happens when Stephon Diggs gets frustrated, because Nico Collins led the team with 80 catches last year. Stephon Diggs had 107. His production's going to go down. He's not going to get as many passes, as many catches. So, and then, Ant Hill says, don't forget about Joe Mixon. Absolutely. So I think there's more things that have changed the Texans' chances to win the AFC South than Stephon Diggs, but that's more of like extra chocolate sauce on top of the sundae.
Exactly. And that wide receiver room, like you mentioned, is going to be really competitive. And there will be games where Diggs frustrated for not seeing the football. I just wonder, CJ Stroud, 4,100-yard passing season last year, but he had nearly 5-1 touchdown to interception ratio. I don't think he can do it again. And to be quite honest with you, Austin, I think the Texans offense is going to regress over the next 2 years, even if they replicate last year's success on offense. Bobby Slowick's a head coach somewhere. And then you got to start over at offensive coordinator. You can have all the weapons you want, but it's a new scheme, a new system. Like, I mean, I think that Slowick will get a job if they have a similar year to last year. And he was a hot name this season. So look, even if you lead the NFL in passing yards, it's not a huge jump that we're talking about. So I think the answer really, and if you want to kind of get a little bit deeper into this, I think it's closer to no impact than a lot. Like the Texans were already favored. I think I don't think that this makes it that much different, right? They've already had a dynamic group of pass catchers. Adding another one is great, but it's not like a need, or it wasn't like a deficiency they had last year. They're strengthening a strength. And because of that, I think it's closer to no impact than it is a lot. But because I am, in the middle of those two answers, it is a little for me. But I do think it's closer to none.
Yeah, so Ryan Super Chat says none. Snead Island. Look at his stats, Snead versus Diggs. And Jack, you mentioned that earlier. 5 games, Snead versus the Bills with Diggs. 10 targets when Snead was covering Diggs. Just 3 catches for a total of 37 yards, 0 touchdowns. Very impressive. And look, that's great, right? But then you've got 4 pass catchers now on the Texans roster who had over 630 yards and 5+ touchdowns, all 4 of them a year ago. You get with Nico, Tank Dell, Dalton Schultz, and now Stephon Diggs. So if Snead's going to take away Stephon Diggs, cool. All right, now Cheeto, you got to go do something about Nico. And then you got Tank Dell versus Roger McCreary in the slot. And then who the hell is going to guard Dalton Schultz?
And nobody could guard Noah Brown last year in the Titans game.
Yes, that's right. Because Noah Brown was that third receiver. And he was third down Noah Brown. Jack was screaming it on the rooftop of Acme last year. But Nate has a good point. Texans have a first place schedule. There's no doubt about that. So it's going to be, I like where the AFC South is at. No longer are they expected to be walkovers. So look, I think we've got a really fun offseason, a fun summer, and a really fun season ahead. So we'll continue to have these questions, and we're 3 weeks away exactly today from the NFL Draft Day. So, Jack, let's wrap up this show like we do every Thursday with the Magic Bucket. Always a shout out for our great friends at Wilson County Hyundai in Lebanon. If you want to save some money on that new ride, go to Lebanon and say hey to Payne Bone, who runs the show out there with his family-owned and operated company, and all their great customer service, and save money by going to see them. Wilson County Hyundai, wilsoncountyhyundai.com. We got the Magic Bucket. Jack, I believe I went first last week.
Yes. So, and hey, while you're pulling, this comment is too good to ignore. Okay. Curtis C says, man, if the Texans get a ship before us, Miss Amy will implode. And I get that line of thinking. I also think because the Texans are loading up like they are, Amy sees it. Right. Yeah. And she's like, okay, well, if the Texans are doing it, we're doing it. We're going all in if they're going all in. And so I think it could be an arms race here in the next couple of years, just because the Texans have added so much and the Titans are kind of catching up to them in that regard.
All right, Jack. I don't know if you've had this one or not. If you have, you can let me know. But you have to explain something. Do Do you shower in the morning or do you shower at night?
Morning shower all the time. You sleep in the same bed every day. You got to get up, start fresh, get clean early. I don't like sitting in my own filth for an entire day's work and then jumping in the shower before I go to bed, because then I get in the bed after my shower and I'm all hot from the hot shower and the covers are on and then it's sweaty and it's gross. You shower in the morning, people. Be normal. I will say in college, I used to shower twice a day, which was a bit of an OCD thing for me. But I did a morning and a night shower. Now we're saving water. We're just in the morning.
Well, I think
it does depend
I'm not
what
going to
you do for
answer.
work.
I'm not going to answer because I will have the opportunity to pull this later on, and I will explain mine. But Darren, yep, shower before and after work.
If you're out there working on the roof or working in construction or landscaping,
obviously there are situations, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think situations change things. But of course, Lou Man says I take tub baths. Which, if there was one person that watches the show that's like him, who do you think that watches our show every day takes baths in the tub? I'm like Lou Man, first round pick.
I would have said Orlando. I think Orlando would have been my answer.
Oh, and then Jay says, why stand when you can lay down?
That's a good question. That's funny.
Yes. And Matt says, if you shower every night, your bed shouldn't be dirty. Fair. Look, there's a lot of ways you can do this. And Tiffany says, I work in the hospital. It's both night and morning. And I get that. So I still look, Orlando seems triggered because Orlando goes, ooh, Lou Man. And then you drop and say Orlando. So Orlando's like, what did I do to become?
I didn't mean Orlando. I got my words crossed up. I meant Andre. I think Andre's the bath guy. Orlando, you're good. You're good. Don't worry about it. Cross up.
Hilarious. All right. This one's for me. What is one habit that you wish you could break tomorrow? This is a good one, and I haven't had it.
Picking at your nose wound?
Yeah, I'm not picking at it. It's in a like when you wash your face, like the scab's gonna come off. When you roll around in your sleep, scab's gonna come off. It's just one of those spots that just doesn't get any breaks. So, I admit it's gross, and everybody that does this knows it's gross, but you can't stop it. And it's biting your fingernails, like trimming your fingernails with your mouth and your teeth rather than with fingernail clippers. Like, I wish I could stop that, but like, people confuse eating your fingernails with chewing them. I don't chew them or eat them. That's weird as hell. I trimmed them, but I wish I didn't. That's my one.
See, I don't have that problem, thankfully. It's definitely an anxiety thing, though. Like, and once you get in that rhythm, you can't get out of it. I thank God I never went down that road, but yeah, who chews them and eats them? That's next level.
Well, people say that, like, "What, are you eating your fingernails?" Like, no, weirdo. I'm trimming them because they're too long.
Yeah, I did watch Breakfast Club last night, and that girl would be chewing on her fingers, and they all looked back at her. They said, "What are you gonna do? Eat your hand?" Really? It's okay. They're in the same room for most of the movie. I'm gonna get hate for saying it's just okay. I can't wait to see the hate. But it's just okay in my opinion.
Yeah. Bucks Burner says that's how you get worms. I've never gotten worms. I mean, David says biting your fingernails is worse than taking a tub bath.
If you take a bath, do you take a shower after your bath? Because I mean, you're just sitting in your own dirt.
I probably would. Like, a bath is like a relaxation tactic, not a cleanse yourself tactic. Hello Lady says, what about your toenails? Nope, do that the old-fashioned way with the clippers because,
you'd be pretty flexible if you could get that. Get those toenails up there.
Oh, and I'm a pretty flexible guy. Like, I can yeah. I got my hamstrings are legit. Like, I can bend. My hips are kind of tight, but outside of that, I'm a pretty flexible guy. But I wish I did not trim my fingernails with my mouth because I know it's gross. Is it anxiety? Maybe. Is it like, I don't know. Is it just I'm bored and I look down like, those are kind of long and it got nothing to do for 5 seconds. I don't know. But I know where I got that. And I'm not going to out my family member that I got it from because I know they watch the show. I'm not even going to give a gender. I know they watch the show and they know that they created it. We've had the conversation, but I'm not going to publicly out them, the person that I got from in my family of why I do this. They have since quit. So I know it can be done. I just haven't gotten there yet.
There you go. Baby steps.
Yes, baby steps. All right, guys. Heck of a show today. A lot of big news with Stephon Diggs trade and the reaction that goes along with it. We'll see what's in store for tomorrow on the show. But make sure you hit that like button on the way out because that goes a long way for us. Please hit that like button if you're watching on Facebook and or YouTube. And also subscribe to our YouTube channel, like our Facebook page, engage with our content, read Jack's articles, read Sam's articles, and all of our other things at AtoZSports.com and check out our social media. And we'll see you guys tomorrow morning on a Friday. Appreciate it as always.
Tighten Up Podcast out now.